All right. I hope everything's working. Otherwise, this is all nonsense. Um, I guess welcome to the stream. Mm. So I've been developing a lot of software over the holidays, in between cooking and arranging Christmas, New Year's, all of that. So I haven't really recorded anything, and like I just want to sort of share a little bit of what I've been working on. And I also seem to be procrastinating a little bit of checking things off. So I thought, why not then force myself to stream checking things off so everyone can see that it's checked off. Um, basically, for I'm just assuming people don't know what I'm working on. So I'm building an app called GoalPath. GoalPath is a software planning tool, and it's designed to help automate the administration of keeping a software team or software development tool, roadmap building, keeping all of that aligned in process and keeping people informed of how things are going. So basically, I'm trying to automate an entire software development process. And I'm doing this with multiple team support. And, you know, we're actually working with uh, this app in my current company, and I'm using this to relieve or automate a lot of the administration tasks that I'm doing so that we can be more effective when we're working with software. And it also helps me align the roadmap. And I've been working on with the same kind of roadmap building, same strategies for working with product management for over a decade now. And GoalPath is sort of combining all of it into a unified development process that lends from Scrum, it lends from Lean Agile Management, and Kanban, and so on. However, I try to do as much with software as possible, and now I only ask the user for what I need to actually produce the most value with it. So I want the tool to help as much as possible and be not be in the way when it's not. So over the holidays now, I've been working on the team feature where you can have multiple teams working on multiple tracks in the development in the roadmap. So you can have one team working on uh, I don't know, preparing operations, preparing for search and optimization, that kind of stuff. And you can have another team working on different features that, and then you can sort of combine their work streams at the end, so you can work with dependencies and stuff, whatnot, similar to what you do in a Gantt chart, but not specifically so much for classical projects, more for software projects that sort of follows the lean pull principles. But then I still try to give you sort of an estimate of when things get done so that the management and sales and whoever needs the different dates can stay up to date to what we're doing. So we're going to test out a few things that I've been working on. And basically, I made a better multi-team support system where the dashboard in GoalPath changes depending on what team you're in. So uh, we can talk a little about my setup here. On my right, I just have Obsidian ready to take notes if we find something that I want to think about or like uh, work on later. This small window here is GoalPath in production because I'm using GoalPath to develop GoalPath. And then on the left here is my test project that I'm working on my local machine with. And uh, I'm using a seed for my test project that is a space program. And it's mostly for fun, but I have an automatic script set up so that every time I need some test data or something to work with, I can generate out a fully like setup project with tasks, milestones, whatever, so that I can work in an environment where I have data and I sort of know what to expect. It's not perfect, but it's almost there. So I can share a little bit of what GoalPath is currently. On the dashboard, we have a measurement of how much work in progress we're having. I'm a firm believer in if you want to have efficient software development, you keep your work in progress as low as possible. Then you have a defect trend, that is to measure, like if you're running too fast, then your defects are going to, like the trend's going to go up. You're going to get more and more defects because you're not really stable. And if you're running too slow, then if you're not breaking anything, then you could potentially run faster. Not recommending that you break things, but just that's just the nature of things. If speed is what you're trying to aim for, then you're gonna have to take a few guesses along the way, and they might not always be successful. Project velocity is classic Scrum velocity calculations. More on that maybe in yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. And then we have highlighted items. So I don't think you can make a software team run faster by, asking them to do more hours or uh, like checking on them every 5 minutes and like, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? And like stress them out because you're going to need your frontal lobes when you're working with software. And stress actually turns off your frontal lobes. It makes you dumber. And you want your software team as smart as possible when they're working. Uh, and then we can have a debate about positive stress, negative stress, short, whatever. But what you can do to make your team faster is to have them highlight issues in the development process where they're blocked, and your role as like a product owner or a project leader or whatever is to go in and unblock them. So GoalPath allows you to track if you're just blocked in general, if you need a discussion, or if you need clarification. You can ask questions and you can get clarification on that. And then as a project leader or Scrum Master or whatever it is, we can see what's blocked and we can ask to have those uh, blockers resolved as soon as possible. And that actually allows your team to be as productive as possible. There's no unnecessary blockers, or you can communicate that you're blocked to other uh, to like stakeholders or customers or whatever, or and saying, hey, we're waiting for this external party. We're not really getting the feedback from the customer that we want, or whatever it could be. And then you can reassess and plan accordingly. But the important thing is you want your team to raise like a flag if they're blocked. So Toyota has this concept as well, where you stop the line if something's wrong, something's broken. It borrows from that concept, but it doesn't necessarily need you to stop the line because, like in production environments, stopping the line, it's very expensive. But two, it's you don't want to continue a faulty production line. Whereas in software, if you have issues, unless they're in production and your issues are causing data faults, then you can stop the line and just fix it in your project. And that means it's not necessarily as urgent. So um, it's a little bit of a stop the line situation where, hey, I need more information here. I can't continue, or I need help resolving this block. Anyway, uh, what I've been working on now, as you can see here, this space program that I have. Uh, these are the current milestones that we're working on, and they're assigned to different teams: the operations teams, the engineering team, and they have a business value score. We can see a small progress bar. How's it going? Stuff like that. There are no upcoming deadlines in this project. I don't really generate any deadlines in this. I should makes this dashboard look a little bit better. There's a progress report. We'll get to that in a little bit. I just joined this space program because like the seeding doesn't give my user any items to work on. And then there's the activity feed of like how things are going in the project. Sorry, need some coffee. I can just briefly show what the roadmap for the space program looks like. And the goal, of course, is a moon landing. To do that, we need a lunar transit. That's a milestone. And to do that, we need to handle launch operations. Before that, we need to do system validation, etc. So basically, GoalPath allows you to do reverse planning. Like we uh, want to land on the moon. What do we need to do to land on the moon? And you can plan backwards. And you can see that we're currently working on these last three items here: navigation control systems, spacecraft assembly, and ground control infrastructure. And then we eventually will work through this roadmap through the dependencies then and reach the moon. That's the goal, right? And this allows you a few things. You can have multiple tracks working at the same time, but you can also see that you can't really start the system testing and validation unless the spacecraft is assembled. So we have a dependency, hard dependency between that. However, we can work on the ground control infrastructure and the navigation systems at the same time. And we can see that we started spacecraft assembly before we actually had the navigation and control systems finished. Uh, but we can also see that that is just like we're fixing out some bugs. So that's why we can start the spacecraft assembly earlier. So this visualization of a roadmap is basically the initial concept of GoalPath, and things have sort of going from there. But let's get back to what we're actually going to test. So on the right here, we have the exact same dashboard as we had here, but we have my work in progress. And we can see that I have a bunch of yellow items here. So I highlight the items that are in progress. Again, we want to finish. If you start working on something, we want to finish that as fast as possible. And that is the most efficient way to like have as few work in progress items as possible. So what I've been working on here is the multi-team support. I had issues with the dashboard and the stand-up not really working. So to be able to test this, um, I need to be in teams. So if I go here, I go to members, the space program is actually set up to allow me to be in multiple teams. So now I'm both in the operations team and in the engineering team. And I'm going to test this, to be honest, not in this environment. So nothing changes here because I'm in both teams. But if I click the stand up, uh, ideally, I need to choose which team that I'm doing the stand up for, because I am now in multiple teams. So I can do the stand up for the engineering team. But go through here, we can see I still have some highlights, but uh, we will now only see 5 members of the engineering team that we're doing stand up for. If I want to do the stand up for the operations team, we have the 3 members of the operations teams, me included. And I can talk more about the stand up feature briefly. So here's the thing that we had going on. We were talking a lot on our retrospectives at work of like, oh, we should do our stand-ups in this way. And then when we did the stand-ups, we sort of got like, we forgot a little bit about the order. So how to do things. And we kept talking about like how to do the stand-up. So basically I just made a guided process that takes us through the stand-up. And now no one has to talk about how do we do a stand-up, because we can just go through this. And the stand-up, it's actually built on the concept of walk the board, but we're doing it per individual. Uh, so the idea here is that we are going to go through each member's work and see what's blocking them. We can see here that we did ask for which team we wanted to do the stand-up for, and the projects are loaded accordingly. And I'm now going to remove myself from a team. I think the engineering team. We can now see that my dashboard is updated. I only see the milestone for the operations team, which is the second item here. Um, so when I work with items, the way GoalPath works, and this is how Pivotal Tracker did it, and it's actually pretty good from because of the choice of this. Again, it's focused on work in progress, and that's why I chose this design method. I know that people are more comfortable with boards, but the boards have a lot of problems. That's perhaps a different video. But basically, when you work with an item, you can click a button to start it, and then you go through the entire like pipeline, classic Kanban board movement for it. And then at the end, there's the accept reject state that we're at right now. The idea here is that no, unless it's a very simple problem, then no developer should actually, say, hey, this is done without either customer, product leader, or another developer's input, depending on the problem. So this is based like if you have a Q&A team set up or whatever, then they would probably like do accept reject here. So if I click reject, I can give a reason to it, and then the developer working on that will immediately see, oh, okay, I got rejected on my item. It's not completed for some reason. And we try to like I want that ideally to be as close to the customer as possible to make sure that the customer is actually happy with what we're delivering. Um, and I guess that's why I'm streaming this clicking thing because yeah, showing what we're doing. We can see that the stand up did in fact not crash when we loaded it. We just verified that now. And then we have some things in the planning view and the milestone details. So, for example, if we click the milestone details here, there's a team selector. I'm now going to look at this one, and I can change which team actually is working on this milestone, and this allows the different projects. So I do have another app set up here, another roadmap set up, and we can look briefly look at the milestones for this one. I don't know. I had fun. I made a snowboard seed, I guess, but basic app. So we can see that this is in fact a project settings. Go to billing. This one does not have the team plan. As such, it shouldn't be showing this team assignment thing. So we can see that it's actually disabled. However, we're still showing this. So this is actually something that's not done. We are still showing the team selector on the milestones, something that's regressed in the UI. So that's actually good that we tested that. I was hoping to be done with this entire milestone, but apparently, I don't know if I did something wrong. It's good that we're testing. And then we have the planning view. So we're going to go back to the space program. We're going to look at the planning view. So if we have multiple teams and they're working on different milestones, we can see what they are supposed to do in which order based on the execution order of the milestones. We can reassign to different teams in this view as well, and it will give you warnings if, oh, that doesn't look too pretty. It will give you warnings if you mess up the order. And we can actually have the order recalculated using, oh, that messed up. Okay. It's not working with the dependencies. Let's look into that. Oh, embarrassing. Anyway, if I look at the same planning for the snowboard app, we can see the execution of the order of the different milestones, and we can rearrange them to sort of make sure that we need machine learning before we can do that. Oh, we need that one to be before that one. need a basic app first. We need the actual app before we can do the headphones. And there we have sort of an updated planning. I haven't done any voting on this, so we don't really have a business value, but that's beside the point. But we can see that this does in fact not show the teams. I need to fix that button. I have something working further down with that. But that's the multi-team support. So now we're going to go into the weekly newsletter. And we're going to take a look at this. So I changed the name mid as I was working with this. So instead of weekly newsletter, I was called weekly update at one point to just progress report, because that's actually what it is. So we're going to look at the space program. The space program has an old progress report for week 45. So every week, a new progress report is generated, and it's based on the activity in the project and in a very specific way. So if I look at a timeline, every milestone, every week, we have a short summary like of what happened in this milestone this week. If nothing happened, then we have the Pew standard like text, etc. But then I look at the activity and I use an LLM to generate a short status update on what happened in this milestone. And the idea here is that a project lead or someone that needs to send information to customers, so whatever you've been doing, etc., can go in here and they can sort of edit and tweak and make sure that we have a progress report on what happened with that milestone that week, and we can inform whoever needs to be informed based on that. However, for the entire project, and because I'm a firm believer in transparency, it creates this summary of these summaries that just shows an overview of how the entire project is doing. It shows metrics right now, and so the metrics are a bit off because this is the space scene thing, and it's all scripted data, so I haven't run all the calculations. But it gives you a brief update of like what's going on, what are the metrics that we're currently working with. It gives you per milestone breakdown, summary of the summaries, so to speak, and then looking ahead, just a heads up what's going on next week. And it also tries to include a few information about holidays because I built this feature during the holidays. So it generates this. And honestly, I think I can show you the one for GoalPath. It's probably more interesting. Um, Something like that. We can see that I've been working on 4 milestones, which is not in how I want to work, because I just want to work on one thing at a time, ideally, especially since I'm doing this on my own. It gives the overview, but it then also gives the estimation of like when will what be done based on your velocity scoring. And it actually also computes this using standard deviations, all the statistics that you can to do a statistical model that should give you an expected delivery date, a best case, a risk adjusted delivery date, some notes on each milestone, like in progress, this one's planned, etc. And the idea here is every week your estimates will be updated automatically, and everyone who is in the project or who is interested in this update can get an update of, okay, how are we doing? What's going on? And currently I'm generating these weekly summaries, and this backfill thing is actually working because this one only has 2 milestones in it. And it's in a state where I just want to have it running for a while so I can tweak, adjust the tone, make sure that it feels like natural like progress update and not something that's just slammed together. So yeah, that's the goal. And I sort of needed to run for a bit to be able to assess if it's good enough. Like I can tweak it. It has multi-language support because like at work we're working in Swedish and I'm generally working in English and GoalPath in general. So and it does support other languages as well. So the idea is that it should be in a language that a stakeholder can also read and like get a little bit of a like transparency and see how things are going. All right, and now lastly for the big one, the estimation and velocity logic. Uh, and let's see if we can actually see this with the space scene. So this is the forecast panel. It's per milestone. It's getting recalculated every time you make changes to the milestone. Uh, I can tweak that, but currently that's not what like what's the issue. So like I just need this to be working, and then it's recalculated every weekend because the if the estimates for something you're working on now changes, then it will affect the estimates for the upcoming milestones as well. And we can see here that this one is estimated to take 2.5 weeks, 2.6 weeks. And we can then also see if it's an if we're optimistic, everything is going according to plan, the best possible delivery we could do, then it's probably around the 20th of February that this is done. Uh, and it's working on that assumption. And otherwise it's March, otherwise it's May. So I'm getting 3 dates. Yes, they don't align with the current date, but that's because this is all generated data. But you're getting an optimistic and most likely and a pessimistic because if you were giving dates as estimates, then you should always give like a span of dates. These are all based on statistical numbers in this project, and we can look at the details if you're curious of what this is, why these numbers look the way they do. All right, so this velocity that we're working on with is the team strategy. I have different strategies depending on if you have teams, if you don't have teams, and sometimes there's not enough data, so then I tweak the strategy again. And we're looking at the velocity of like how this team is doing. But we're also calculating like a confidence score. So if we have a lot of variance in our estimates and deliveries, then it's really hard to sort of give a good estimate. So then we sort of increase the estimate to give you a more tangible, something that you can actually trust. Uh, and obviously this needs to be tweaked, but the idea is that if you have a lot of volatility in how your team delivers, uh, that affects your estimates. So the span of your dates need to increase significantly. And then we have some classic like forecast calculations based on the average that we have. Then we have more breakdowns after this. So we have the standard deviation, like we apparently have some weeks where this team really, really, really delivers, whereas the average is 10 points. So it's really high up the variance on how we're delivering. And there's actually a zero thing in here, which is typically React bug. So I'm just going to capture that here. There is a there's zero on the velocity details. Details under calculation. Probably, yeah, is policy. Sure. So that happens quite often with React, which is unfortunate. All right, so this is an in progress milestone. And what happened before, so we can actually, because we can look at the roadmap, we can see that this actually has the spacecraft assembly here. This milestone, if we look at the forecast, shouldn't have that milestone, the navigation and control systems, as a prerequisite when it's like calculating when this is done. Because these are in progress at the same time, GoalPath will see them as you're working on both of these at the same time. Therefore, because we started this, we don't need to wait for that because we already started. And before, this was actually showing up in the calculations for that, whereas now I'm instead working with it as like a multi, like you split the velocity out if the same team is actually working on parallel milestones. So we can't really, we're sharing the velocity to illustrate that you are working slower on both milestones if you are working on two things at the same time. And I'm actually also doing um, I'm doing like a penalty for if you have too much work in progress, if you're working on too many things at the same time, you get a little bit of a penalty on your velocity calculations because it's really hard to give estimates otherwise. Um, all right, so here are some quick bug things that we solved. We are going to add myself to one of the items just to give a bit of a test data setup. So if I work on something, let's assign myself to these two items. I now have a clickable thing here so I can get to the milestone quickly, and you can add items to that milestone quickly. So the goal here is that if I'm a software developer, I can do all of my work from the dashboard. Ideally, I don't need to click around. I can immediately start working. So I just want to cross that one off. This one I can't really show while streaming because I need to run the calculations models at the end, but I can mention what it's about. We can actually take a look at the navigation control systems. And we're just going to finish these items. Oh, now we can actually see. So the way it works, uh, software integration testing. I can start working on that. So I just click the button. Now I'm working on it. I'm assigned to it. I can tell the team that I'm working on this. No one else ideally grabs it when I'm working on it. And then I can say, okay, now I'm done. And then it's in a delivery state, and then it's in the accept reject state. So the theory here is like if you have a CI system or something that needs to build it, it needs to pass through that state before you can actually test it. And this is similar to how Pivotal Tracker, if you ever try that, use the interaction. And I really like that interaction because it focuses primarily on work in progress and the order of things. Whereas if you do a Kanban board, it's really, really easy to get confused about the order of things. Anyway, this had an issue that, well, this one didn't really have a forecast because it didn't have anything. Uh, this had an issue where when I was reaching the end of a milestone, so then the forecast here, it got reduced to 0. It's doing calculations in the background. That is actually an output validation fail. Okay. Finishing. So that's, I do solve validation both output and input. Uh, yes, bad validation output. Um, and honestly, I wrote that in my notes, but it should actually be the rejection note on that one. And then we actually could go do that one. Here was a thing. If I clicked, let's see, if I clicked an item link here, it will take me to the milestone and it will hopefully show the that's actually broken. Expand accepted items doesn't since introduction. When it broke at least. Anyway, if I hit the back button here, I got redirected back because I was doing a push instead of a replace on the browser history. So that was like a quick fix. It's one-liner. We already showed that the item on the dashboard is clickable. I show the planning view button. It works. This is actually finished. However, we also saw that there were issues there. View button doesn't respect dependencies properly. Okay, and then in the planning view, when we look at the planning view, that looks a little bit messed up. I can now get this drawer to sort of get information about a milestone without leaving the actual plan view. So you can see how it's planned. So that's the drawer. And then here's another two bug fixes. If I switch to light mode, and I look at the project velocity, which is now significantly higher because then we're tracking planned and unplanned velocity. This is not something that perhaps is a problem, but it's the idea is if you add things to a milestone after the milestone is started, then that is in fact unplanned work or something unexpected. And that affects your deliverable of like how your estimates are handling and like you can it's a little bit of a measurement of how reactive your team is versus how proactive your team is. However, you can't really say if one is better than the other, but the colors of this were inversed. So it looked like now the unplanned velocity is actually the red bar. Before the planned velocity was the red bar, and that didn't really work out really well. Um, okay, and then last but not least, if I had an item, let me just open one of these. Oh, interesting. If this one became too long, then like the text of the item started leaking onto the buttons instead. But now you can sort of see it stays within the icons and buttons. And, and yeah, work through that. That one actually works now. There we go. That means, okay, I'll reload this. I now only have two items that got rejected of what we went through. Another reason why we're doing this on a Saturday is tomorrow I'm going to get a new week report or a new progress report for week for this week, and then this activity is going to show up in that. So I want to like see that the progress report is actually working correctly. I need to fix these two. It should probably be an easy fix. I need to add. Let's see. This one is a new bug that I need to capture. So I'm just gonna add this here. So you can just be there. Go. And oh, interesting. All right. Then we can add the milestone dashboards. So button. It's added. That's done. And we can actually see if I reload now, both of these should be in the correct milestone. In here. And the reason that happened is because I'm doing optimistic updates of the UI. So yeah, that one, this one, we need to add as a bug. You can just do that there. And this one was when clicking an item link, set the item. It doesn't expand and show the item. It used to do that. It's I changed the milestone page a little bit, so I added these tabs. So now it doesn't expand properly, which is sad. And then we need to capture this one as well. But there we go. And that concludes my QA session and click through of GoalPath. I hope you enjoyed it. Like you can try out GoalPath on goalpath.app. I should probably add a link to the description. And yeah, if you join me in this, thanks for watching. I'll, I'll keep posting more updates. All right, thank you. Bye.